Right now, you're wearing clothes. You didn't think twice about it this morning. You never do. Ask yourself why, and the answer feels obvious. Modesty. Warmth. It's just what humans do. But the real answer is far stranger than that, and it has almost nothing to do with any of those things. To find it, scientists didn't study fabric at all. They studied lice, small parasites, the kind that live in human hair. And somehow, these tiny insects hold one of the most precise clues we have to a question that stumped anthropologists for over a century. When did humans actually start wearing clothes? Here's the problem. There's no ancient garment sitting in a museum from that first moment. Cloth rots. Fur decomposes. Leather disintegrates within a few thousand years in almost every environment on Earth. So how do you date an invention that leaves behind no physical trace at all? The answer came from your own body. In 2003, a biologist named Mark Stoneking turned to a very specific creature. Not head lice, the kind that live in scalp hair. Body lice, the kind that live exclusively in clothing. Body lice can't survive on bare skin for more than a few hours. They need fabric, something to cling to, something to lay their eggs in. Which means one thing follows logically, almost like a fingerprint left at a crime scene. Body lice could not have existed until humans started wearing something. So Stoneking's team compared the DNA of body lice to head lice. They measured how long ago the two split into separate species, and the answer stunned researchers across multiple fields at once. Body lice diverged roughly 170,000 years ago. Their answer stunned researchers across multiple fields. Body lice diverged roughly 170,000 years ago. That means humans have likely been wearing some form of clothing for over 100,000 years, long before agriculture, long before cities, long before anything resembling the modern world. But here's the question that reframes everything. Why then? Homo sapiens had already existed for tens of thousands of years without clothes. What suddenly changed? The timing lines up almost perfectly with something else. Around that same period, a massive global cooling event was underway. Ice ages had gripped much of the planet for hundreds of thousands of years, but this particular stretch pushed conditions to a brutal extreme. Temperatures in parts of Africa and the migration corridors into Eurasia dropped sharply. Humans had one major advantage over almost every other mammal on Earth. We had lost most of our body hair millions of years earlier, likely to help us cool down efficiently while hunting during the hottest hours of the day. That trait worked beautifully in the heat. It became a serious liability in the cold. So evolution handed early humans an impossible choice. Grow thick fur again, the way nearly every other mammal on the planet had, or find another solution entirely. Growing new fur wasn't a realistic option. Evolution doesn't reverse itself quickly, and humans didn't have tens of thousands of generations to spare. Instead, something remarkable happened. Humans borrowed fur instead of growing it. Early humans began wearing the skins of the animals around them, not for style, not for decoration, for survival in temperatures that would have otherwise killed them within hours. Anthropologist Ian Gilligan has spent years studying this exact transition, and his research suggests something fascinating. The earliest clothing wasn't tailored or fitted. It was almost certainly simple draped hides, wrapped and tied loosely around the body, similar to how some traditional societies still use hides and blankets today. Function came first. Style came much, much later. And this single invention may have changed the entire trajectory of the human species. Consider what clothing actually allowed early humans to do. It allowed them to leave Africa's warmer regions and survive in far colder climates that would have been completely uninhabitable otherwise. Some researchers argue that without clothing, humans may never have successfully migrated into Ice Age Europe or the frozen expanses of northern Asia at all. Clothing wasn't just comfort. It was the technology that unlocked half the planet. But there's a second discovery hiding inside this same lice research, one that's even stranger than the first. Stone King's team also found something else buried in the genetic data. A second, smaller shift in the timeline, roughly consistent with tighter fitting, more tailored clothing appearing much later, closer to the last major ice age around 30,000 years ago. This lines up closely with archaeological finds of bone needles, some of the oldest sewing tools ever discovered, found at sites in Siberia and Eastern Europe. Needles meant something had changed. Loose draped hides were no longer enough. Humans needed clothing that could seal in warmth completely, garments shaped to the body rather than simply wrapped around it. This is likely when something resembling actual tailored clothing, closer to what we'd recognize today, first appeared. So clothing didn't arrive as one single invention. It arrived in stages, each one responding to an increasingly hostile environment, each one a direct answer to the same brutal question. How do you survive somewhere your body was never designed to survive? Now here is where the story becomes even more interesting, because clothing didn't stop being about survival once humans mastered it. Once bodies were reliably protected from the elements, something new started happening. Clothing began to carry meaning beyond warmth. Different materials signaled status. Certain colors and patterns marked group identity. Specific garments distinguished hunters from elders, warriors from healers, one community from its neighbors entirely. What began purely as insulation slowly transformed into communication. Humans had stumbled onto something no other species had. A layer between the body and the world that could be changed, decorated, and used to say something about who you were without a single word being spoken. That transformation never really stopped. It just kept evolving, generation after generation, all the way to today. So the next time you get dressed in the morning, consider what's actually happening. You're not just picking an outfit. You're participating in a technology that is over 100,000 years old. One that let a hairless tropical primate survive ice ages, cross into freezing landscapes no other version of our species could have reached, and eventually turn simple animal hide into something that could tell an entire story about who you are. Right now, you're wearing clothes for a reason far older and far stranger than you ever imagined. This is The Creation Decoded. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Your support made this possible.